Okay. Welcome to the show. How's everyone doing tonight?
Another week in paradise.
Yeah. So tonight we've got an abundance of news. Hopefully, most of it I, like the funny, and also we are going to be talking about some Jizzy Maxwell, the stuff that come out in the courts on her, and talking about, of course, that'll lead in to, as always, it'll lead into Jeffrey Epstein and some information that's coming out on him. Remember, we don't verify any of this. None of us are traveling to Florida or New York to verify this. All we can do is go off what we hear on or read on other media.
Yeah, and I've read through. It's painful, but I've read through the unsealed court documents.
So I sent her to school to learn how to read.
Yeah, and I would say it's just a lot of back and forth, and it's a ton of discovery and exhibits, and you can find them online if you're so inclined. They were unsealed, so to speak. This latest ruling basically says that in order for Ghislaine to play ball, she needs to name names. We have a list of assumed names, but I think we're a long ways from the public sector of getting like a complete view of all the parties involved.
Yeah.
Well, no, if ever, and it's interesting as I'm reading this. I'm like, yeah, they're never gonna see any justice for that. It's they're going to name them. Their PR groups are going to step forward and do things in the public vision. The mainstream media is going to support this new and improved persona, and this will all eventually just be a little blip in history, but it's interesting to follow the story, and I'm excited to report she's not enjoying her time in jail.
Yeah, I heard a story that she, for all the paperwork, she had one of those like library cards, and she barricaded herself in kind of the office or room they gave her time to study in. Whether she barricaded herself or just left the cart by the door and the guards thought that she barricaded herself, I don't know, but that's the story coming out. That's coming out via a guard, not through any official sources that I know of yet, but maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, and perception is everything. They're also saying that she's a shell of the woman she once was.
Oh, I can only imagine. But we need to, when we kick this off, we need to start off, I think, talking about her dad. But first, I think we need to go with some news. Yes.
All Lots of news. There's never an absence of news.
It's a good time. Now, this one kind of, in a way, makes me uncomfortable, but then again, not really. So it's coming out of NPR. It says a deputy mayor is charged with amassing 16 assault weapons and fake FBI IDs. The deputy mayor of Airmont, New York, has been arrested on multiple weapons charges after police discovered an arsenal of illegal guns in his house, including 16 assault weapons and 13 silencers. According to the DA's office, investigators said they also found a stash of fake federal IDs, including FBI credentials.
So before you go on, can you define legally what an assault weapon is? Because that term is thrown around so much that the average listener may not know what an assault weapon is versus just a weapon.
It's an emotional word.
Yes. But is there a legitimate description of an assault weapon?
No.
I would argue that all weapons are assault weapons. This could be an assault straw if it's used in the proper manner.
Well, if you painted it black, it's got to be cool and tactical.
And it's pretty silent.
But anyway, so the uncomfortable thing for me is he had 16 weapons, and I personally know guys, not me, of course, who have more than that. The silencers part. Now, this is a part of when you live in upstate New York, you become restricted by New York City, or here in Utah, if we were to become restricted by the laws that Salt Lake City or Provo or Ogden need to face. Whereas if they're suffering more violence, then the people out here who aren't have to face those laws, or, you know, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Funny that he had the credentials. And it makes me wonder if he was planning something, or was it like one of those ones you buy for your Halloween costume?
I have a driver's license that says I'm not an earthling, I'm an alien.
Yeah.
Is that a fake ID?
I don't know. And that's the thing. I would like to find out more. But again, in New York, you've got, I don't know. I'm all for, we need to make laws as close to the community they're written and applied as possible. But yeah, 16 assault weapons. I mean, what is an assault weapon? Is that a semi-automatic rifle? Is it a pistol? It's a verb and then a noun.
Yeah.
But yeah, so up in New York, up in Airmont, New York, I don't know if this is the picture of his assault weapons. I don't know.
Well, and the way they spun this by, you know, their official comment is the community is much safer now. It is misleading because he didn't assault anyone with these weapons. So I would argue that it's no safer now than it was before. Owning them doesn't make you unsafe.
Yeah, I would say the actions are what makes, I mean, if he uses them in defense, do they become defense weapons?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. But
we got a story later that may apply.
The spin that, you know, the community is much safer now that we have apprehended him, it bothers me because, you know, obviously he hadn't used them. He wasn't threatening to use them.
Maybe he was a shady mayor.
They caught him because he bought a silencer online.
Yeah. Maybe he was a shady mayor that was robbing banks on the weekends, you know. Deputy mayor, he's leaving the office, tells Alice goodbye, gets in his he drives, obviously, if he's doing that, like a beige Cutlass. I would say would be the ideal car to rob banks in, a beige Cutlass. And if you can get it so that maybe a fender and a couple doors on the driver's side are replaced
with like a different color.
Yeah. See, hear me out. I know a guy, not going to mention any names. He used to do the gas and drive offs, and he had it lined up. See, he had a white car, but it had damage on the driver's side. So it had a red fender and a red door. I think both doors were red.
You pull up one way?
So he'd pull up so the gas station attendant would see the white car all the time. And he would fuel up and then just drive off. Well, the police coming the other way when they're looking for you, they're going to see the red car.
Yes.
And so he just drives on. He said he did it for years. I don't agree with it, but
you know,
it is what it is. All right. We do have some comments on the story coming from New York, it sounds like. The founding fathers intended the people to have the same arms as the military for protection against a tyrannical government. I'm from Buffalo, New York originally, and I can confirm New York City sets the policy for the state. Yes, on my other show, my co-host Dave is from up by Niagara. And yeah, it completely runs the state. And it's sad. And yes, our founders did set up the Second Amendment so that the populace kept the same arms. I wish they kept to it because, I mean, I don't think I'd ever buy an F-16 because I don't know how to fly.
And where would you park it?
And how much is gas? Yeah, would it fit down the road in front of my house? But
you should be able to if you have the means.
I wouldn't mind a Sherman or a little Sheridan or something, you know, just to drive around, have fun in, take it on the deer hunts, you know. But anyways, yeah. And the calling stuff an assault weapon or not an assault weapon, that's just an emotional term that is used to pull at your heartstrings, to get you to have an emotional reaction. You know, a semi-automatic rifle, like okay. In New Jersey, you can buy a Scar L, which is the modern version of the AR, but you can't buy an M1A, which is a modern version of magazine-fed M1 Garand. But when you look at them, you would call the Scar, according to the news and Feinstein and all those morons, you would call the Scar an assault weapon, and you would call the M1A a hunting rifle, because the M1A has a wooden stock and it shoots a bigger round. I mean, everything's, you know, more robust on it, and, you know, it's got more history killing crowds, I guess. I don't know, but it's just I don't know. Anyways, I think that's a funny story. The deputy mayor is I choose to believe that Friday and Saturdays were spent robbing banks in the closest towns in his beige Cutlass.
With the multicolored fenders.
Yeah, he's got a multicolored fender thing going on. Mm-hmm. Dice on the mirror. Got to have dice on the mirror. You know, he's breaking in. Maybe he's just the will man. Maybe someone else does it, or maybe he's got someone else as the will man. He's the guy who breaks out and, you know, tells everyone to stick their hands in the air and does all that fun stuff. But yeah, so
hard to say.
On to Jizzy Maxwell. We've got to talk about that, and then we are going to touch on Epstein, of course, and we have a couple more news stories to filter in to ease the mood.
I don't know if it's Ghislaine or Ghislaine Maxwell, but she was born in 1961 in France. She was the 9th child of Elizabeth, who was a French-born scholar, and Robert Maxwell, who's a Czechoslovakian-born British media proprietor.
Well, we got to talk about her dad.
Yes.
Her dad was running from the Nazis. He left Czechoslovakia when the Nazis rolled in because he was Jewish. Mm-hmm. And I like her dad in a lot of aspects. Self-made man. I mean, he went first to England, first to France, first to, if I remember, Belgium, then England, then France, then back to England, and then went back to France and found his wife. Self-made man. He ran away with nothing, you know, family all killed by whatever happened in World War II, and started out with nothing. And so that part I like, but we will dig into him a little more, and it changes the tone a little bit. So
she was a British former socialite. She was known for her association with financier, and I'm using that term very loosely. I think Epstein was a con man, but he is listed as a financier and convicted sex offender, Jeffrey Epstein. She worked for her father, and he was a publishing tycoon until his death in 1991, when she moved to the United States and became a close associate of Epstein.
Now, her father owned magazine stuff. He did magazines and newspapers. And it's reported that he owned a magazine in every liberal European nation.
Yeah.
So he had a magazine, 4 or 5 in England and France, but he had a magazine in Germany and in Belgium and Sweden and everything else. So he was a magazine mogul. He was he was a grinder, went out and got it done.
Very influential. Very, very influential.
But right before he died, that started to wane. One part of it was probably magazines started not being as popular, right. And also, living high on the hog for so long, shady things come out. There are claimed to be ties to Israeli intelligence Mossad. He dies kind of weirdly on his yacht named Jizzy, the Jizzy yacht.
Lady Jizzy.
Yeah, Lady Ghislaine or Gigglane, whatever her name is. So his body was found naked in the Atlantic Ocean. He disappeared off the yacht. They found the yacht. Couldn't find his body. Then they found his body naked in the ocean. She also has a couple brothers that kind of took over the family name. And then, and of course, they're coming out now saying, well, he probably just fell off the boat and drowned, But a lot of people are reporting it's a conspiracy that he was an intelligence source for the Israeli intelligence, for the Mossad. And that maybe he knew too much and it was, he was starting to get into financial trouble, or he started to push back against them. So that's just a reported thing. I don't know. We do know that he died.
The Sunday Times reported that Maxwell flew to New York on November 5th, 1990 to deliver an envelope on her father's behalf. That, unknown to her, was part of a plot initiated by her father to steal $200 million from Berlitz shareholders. So that feeds the conspiracy that he may have had some very influential enemies. So Maxwell officially moves to the United States in 1992. She's a socialite. Her father had gifted her a company in New York doing corporate gifts. I mean, she was raised in an extremely wealthy family, very influential, lots and lots of connections. But she moves to the United States in 1992, right after her father's death. So in 1990, it is reported that her father initiated this theft of $200 million.
And this is after his company starts getting into trouble. So it might have been his, golden parachute. Right.
So Maxwell was provided with an annual income of £80,000 thanks to a trust fund established by her father.
But we want to point this out. Now, Maxwell is used to living the socialite life.
Yes.
£80,000 annually is not socialite money.
No.
£80,000 annually is, alimony of a surgeon money.
Which should also give you an indication of the dip that her father's money had taken. Because it's likely that had the magazine business still been flourishing, I mean, everything moved so quickly from print to internet that a lot of print companies really struggled.
Yeah, and we're seeing that right now. I mean, we can go into that a little later about how our media seems to have lost its mind on all sides.
Yeah. So,
but she lost this money. She's living lower. Her two brothers are living lower. Her father's dead. They're selling off all their magazines, selling them one after another. I think they started out with teens, like 15 or 16 different magazines. In the end, I think they held on to 2 for like the end of it, just to kind of, posterity, I think.
So by 1992, she had moved to an apartment of an Iranian friend overlooking Central Park. This person's not named. I'm not sure how connected he is, but you can imagine that it was likely through her socialite lifestyle that she made these connections. It's unlikely that she met him in a coffee shop or in a yoga class or something. It's likely that there was some connection. And at the time, Maxwell worked at a real estate office on Madison Avenue and was reported to have still been trying to find her way into this socialite scene. And she was seen socializing with celebrities. And she quickly rose because of this to a wider prominence as a New York City socialite.
Well, and she also had the, Maxwell fame. I mean, amongst them, they still remember 10 years before the fame of the father, where he was, he could make or break people because he had so much influence amongst his media.
Right. So January of 1991, right after Maxwell's father purchased the New York Daily News, he sent her to New York to act as his emissary. In May 1991, Maxwell and her father took Concord on business to New York, where he quickly departed for Moscow and left her to represent his interests. In November, as we discussed, Robert Maxwell's body was found floating in the sea near the Canary Islands, and where he fell or was pushed off of his yacht. So soon afterwards, Ghislaine flew to Tenerife, where the yacht was berthed to attend to his business paperwork. She attended his father's funeral in Jerusalem. He was Jewish, alongside various Israeli intelligence figures, President Chaim Herzog, Minister Yitzhak Shamir, actually gave his eulogy. So extremely, extremely influential.
And that's not to say that he was definitely a part of the Israeli government, because he was, right now, if, I don't know, who's a big, well-known guy that's a big business, like if Bill Gates died, we could imagine seeing some of our political figures there and speaking at his funeral and giving the eulogy. Maybe.
Sure.
I don't think his wife would be there, but we'll get into that later.
So after his death, I think it's imperative to note that Robert Maxwell was found to have fraudulently appropriated the pension assets of Mirror Group newspapers, a company that he ran, in which he held a large share of ownership, to support its share price. There was reportedly over £440 million in pension funds missing, which left the surviving Maxwell family members and the British government in a bind to repay the 32,000 people affected. So 2 of Maxwell's brothers, Ian and Kevin, who were the most involved with their father in daily business dealings, were arrested on June 19th, 1992, and charged with fraud related to the Mirror Group pension scandal. Now, the brothers reportedly did not have money to hire attorneys and were provided attorneys by the court. They were subsequently acquitted of the charges 3.5 years later in January of 1996. So there was quite the fallout just prior to her dad's passing, which plays into the conspiracy theory.
Yeah, maybe.
And all of it kind of really broke open right after he died, which, left the people closest to him kind of holding the bag.
Yeah. Yeah. And what if one of his employees introduced him to the Atlantic Ocean?
Yeah.
That's something to think about, where he was robbing all these pensions. And it sounds like he may have had, he definitely carried the ability to blackmail.
Yeah.
And maybe that ties into why ultimately Jizzy tied into Jeffrey.
Yeah.
Because that was something she was familiar with. If she grew up familiar with that lifestyle, then I understand that right now the Jeffrey Epstein all focuses on that he was a pederast. But I think it's more than that. I think he was, this is my personal thoughts for anyone out there who questions. I think he was a blackmailer. I think he carried on blackmail, and I believe that he did it for state entities. That's my personal belief.
And I believe that as well, just given that he had no real form of income. He wasn't really good at anything. And he
was a math teacher, not a mathematician, but a math teacher. And apparently he was good at math. But his money did not
it didn't mesh with the lifestyle. So he had to
his
have been,
attainment of money.
yes,
His attainment of money didn't mesh with the growth of his investment firms.
Yes. So
they seem to grow regardless of wins or losses. They just always seem to grow. And it's not just that, but when Acosta went after him in Florida, but we'll get into that a little bit later. Some new stuff has come out since. Jizzy's court trial is, I think, releasing a lot of this, and there's a lot of names coming out, and I'll bet we're not getting all the names. I'll bet that a lot of names are getting redacted.
Yeah, there's actually a website. Ghislaine Maxwell is innocent. I think it's ran by her brothers. Her family really, really backs her up, which is, it's a little disturbing to me, given the the witness testimony and the victim testimony that has been unsealed. You can actually go out and read these testimonies. She is not a person to defend, and her actions are indefensible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it is believed that it is during this time in New York City where she's, really kind of building her social circle, that she falls into with Jeffrey Epstein, and Epstein has gone on record, not on record, but there's been lots of things that have been added to the record where he speaks very fondly of Ghislaine. They have this unique relationship where they actually were in a, I don't know how Epstein has a committed relationship, but he called it a committed relationship.
Committed-ish.
Yeah.
Well, and it seems like they act like a best friend married couple.
Yes.
But he has different tastes. And Ghislaine Maxwell, she's a lovely lady, humana, or physically. Mentally, she's abhorrent. She's a demon. Just like
she was
him.
a shark. She was a shark, 100%.
Yeah, and so was
she.
He
is a shark, yes.
But it seems like she kind of became a dating manager for him, or this is just the reports coming out. But kind of she would arrange the situation.
She was the madam.
And maybe she, in certain times, was a part of it.
Yes. So the witness testimony that has been unsealed, it's declarative in the nature that she didn't just create these meetings, find the people, the children. Let me correct that. But she also participated and assaulted. The witness testimonies that have been unsealed, she assaulted these young girls.
Let's go right into that. What's going on with these witness testimonies? The court is doing the Lord's work right now. And what is the court doing?
Well, it is as with all court cases, what you'll find with Maxwell's case is it is this ebb and flow of just legal jargon, whereby the defense attorney is digging for all of these little holes in the law that they can use
not just holes in the law, but co-conspirators, so that they can spread the wealth around.
Yes.
Another thing, why? Okay, the prosecution is trying to keep the names quiet.
Yeah, which is very concerning. And the only reason that...
So does that tell you that Epstein may have had ties to who the prosecutors consider their boss, or that the prosecution says, hey, we want to keep the names quiet because we plan on going after these guys later, so we do not want to soil those possible prosecutions down the road? Whereas a previous trial can do that, but there is absolutely no reason, in my opinion, why those names can't come out now publicly. Because remember, these courts are we the people charge, Jizzy Maxwell with being a creep. So I think they should be public, but is the prosecution doing this because, like roundabout mirrors, but not the same. Old well, hell, what's his name? Dr. Huxtable, Bill Cosby's trial was because of a civil suit. The reason Bill Cosby's out, they had a civil suit under the protection from a previous prosecutor that he wasn't going to go after a criminal suit if he went through the civil suit and paid restitutions. Turnaround, new prosecutor comes in. Now, a prosecutor is an actor of the state. I believe if a prosecutor makes a deal, that's the state making a deal. Well, the new prosecutor went against that and found out the hard way why you don't.
Yeah.
Because now Bill Cosby's out, and I think had they kept it civilly, anyone he abused could have got, actually, I think, better restitution than an old man dying in jail. Just my opinion. I think.
Yeah, and where the release of names is concerned, I always like to assume positive intent. There is so much criminal liability within these really influential social circles that it is likely that someone is being protected. But if I were a victim and the prosecutor were to come to me and say, listen, if we name this guy, if we name these guys, you have to understand that it may hinder our ability to effectively charge them for this crime. I would want their names to remain sealed until that whole process, which we all know this is going to be years.
I think this is the funny thing is I think this will just get more popular as time goes on. I think in 100 years, you'll be reading case studies on this.
Yeah.
Just like you do with Jack the Ripper now.
Well, and there's so many missed steps. And so, as there is, because humans are involved, just leave it up to us to go mess it up. But there were so many missteps to protecting. I mean, Jeffrey Epstein went to jail once before.
Mm-hmm.
It was...
Yeah, let's dig into that real
It was
quick.
a complete circus.
So, Jeffrey Epstein in, what was it, 2003, was it?
I can't remember.
I can't remember either. But anyways, Acosta was the the federal attorney, the federal district attorney for the Florida area. And he started bringing up Epstein on charges. And as Acosta said, this is what Acosta said when he was asked about, I think when he was going to be labor secretary for Donald Trump. He said, I got a call and they said, you need to back off of Epstein. You need to drop all this. He's tied to intelligence. This is above your pay grade, was the words they said. But now it's coming out. We're reading from OK News. And this comes out of part of the filings, I believe, with Jizzy Maxwell's case. OK News says, Jeffrey Epstein's secret exposed. Convicted child sex abuser reportedly worked as an FBI informant.
Sick.
Now, that would actually kind of tie in that Epstein, because he was this money man. Let's talk about how corrupt the government is for a minute.
Where do we start?
We're going to go back in time. We're going to tie it up around our electronic stuff. So IBM back then was building pretty much the only laptop on earth. And they were drug in front of Congress and submitted to 4 years of congressional testimony about being, breaking the Sherman Act and all this other stuff. And while that happens, Bill Gates, Microsoft storms ahead, right? Now, IBM made a fatal flaw. They didn't give money to any political parties or any congressman. Mm-hmm. So they got 4 years. Bill Gates Yeah, Bill Gates gets drawn in, and immediately he starts donating money to political parties
because he understood the assignment.
Now he is he was at the time kind of a shady character on inventing his stuff and withholding monopolies. He would try to patent weird stuff that he stole from someone else and shouldn't be patentable. I mean, he would patent stuff that he stole from the Apple guys, and the Apple couldn't use the stuff they invented.
Yep.
So anyways, Bill Gates starts giving him money. He spends 6 months in there, whatever, and there he is.
In, out, done.
Yeah. So let's say that Jeffrey Epstein was partially that for them, or maybe he was sent out to get audio-visual dirt on them, to blackmail them. And maybe part of that was blackmailing for his own private needs. And part of that might have been blackmailing for the feds. But he doubled,
that's scary territory, because if you teach someone who to blackmail, how to do it, and then this person has these proclivities to just being a dirtbag, they're going to use that in their personal life.
Yeah. And maybe he was already doing this just on a smaller level, and the FBI doing this and defending him made it so that it got bigger. But
so his first stint in jail, let's talk about that.
Yeah. So we're going to just shoot off the memory. So he's down in Florida. A convicted sex offender is allowed by the sheriff to open up his own office.
Yep.
To hire his own security, his own prison guards. And it has come out that at that office that he opened up, he had young ladies visiting there.
Yep.
Under the nose of these deputies. And how he got that was he threw money at the sheriff and at the county.
Yeah. And he was able to leave. He was able to leave his jail cell and go about his business affairs and come back and check back in, basically come and go as he pleased. And it was found later that during his jail sentence, he was actually assaulting victims.
Yeah. They were feeding him people, or allowing people to be fed to him.
Right.
Now we do have a comment on here.
What about
Joe says,
Prince
what
Joe?
about No Sweat Andrew? Yeah, you're right. Prince Andrew is one of the named people on this. And, not to disparage your royal family, but come on, royal family. You had that, what was that creepy radio host name that...
I can't remember his name, but I know who you're talking about.
He would go and molest children, and he had seems like he had a fetish for morgues, and he would do weird crap in morgues. Yeah, you're right. I mean, I fully believe Prince Andrew in on it.
100%.
And it sounds like the U.S. court system is probably going to try to drag him in, if anything, just to
rub the nose.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. And I think they should. There's your issue with monarchy. I mean, what was that Lady Balfour or whatever, Belfry, that would kill all her servants and bathe in their blood? Granted, that's in the 16th century, but
and we need to remember where Ghislaine is concerned, where Jizzy is concerned. She was not just a socialite as some were. She was a trained helicopter pilot. She was captaining submarines. She was
a lady of intrigue.
Yeah.
Why are we missing out on the James Bond angle here?
Yes.
Jeez, this lady, they could make it like an action movie about her.
Yeah.
I mean, she would be the bad guy action movie heroist, but I mean, seriously, this is the stuff of
future movies.
Soap operas, action shows.
Yeah.
Joe says the royal family have been murdering and abusing people for centuries. Yeah, They have. I would say their biggest abuse of people is what they do to their own subjects. Where, well, right now, I mean, the Queen she can come out and tell them, hey, we need to have a little bit of freedom here. We don't need to lock down and be so rampant. Of course, Great Britain isn't doing anything near what the other crown subject land is, and that's Australia. That's why don't disarm people. Second Amendment.
Yep.
That it won't happen
Do
here.
Do not give up your arms.
Yeah, that's why that deputy mayor subject is so close to home, because I obviously don't have any assault weapons because I took them boating last week, but I do know people that do, close friends and family of mine, do have these things.
Yeah. So another comment was brought up: helicopters and submarines for transporting what? That is the James Bond approach to this. Why?
Well, if you look through some of the names that's on this docket of who hung out on
Pedo Island.
What can we call it? The Jeffy Archipelago. Anyway, so you've got some names on here.
Now, the first one that I want to mention is Marina Abramovic, and if you don't know her story, she's the one who does the spirit cooking. She is a twisted individual.
Yeah, she has like stories about how to serve people.
Yeah.
And I remember her.
Then of course we've got Anthony Weiner, the Anthony Weiner
hold my shock
laptop.
Yeah. Or Anthony Weiner sending pictures of his namesake to underage girls while he's, Podestas, both of them.
Steven Spielberg.
Yeah, Steven Spielberg, and some of these are, it sounds like they brought whatever you wanted to you. Do you want a boy, a girl, a dinner,
right,
cocaine, whatever.
Right. And we also have to preface this by saying that there were people in nearby islands that knew there was shady stuff going on Pedo Island. They knew it, and they've been interviewed, and they said, "Oh yeah, we saw it coming and going. This is a well-known thing." So I don't want to extend any type of levity to the people who went to this island, because I believe wholeheartedly that if they didn't participate, they knew what was happening on this island. It was well known enough in all of these really elite social.
Should.
All right.
Little
bit of break for technology.
Yeah, we have.
At any rate, as I was saying, I don't want to give levity to those that flew to the island with these people.
Yeah.
For the sole reason that everyone knew what happened on the island. Everyone knew. They may not have known to the extent, but I think personal responsibility is important. And if you are, rubbing elbows with people that do this kind of shady shit, you are going to get caught up in it. And I think it's unfortunate that these decisions were made, but they need to be held accountable for just who they, attach their wagon to.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Yeah. Okay. So maybe some of these people that went to the island are, and if we missed any chats while we did this intermittent crap, I apologize. I'm going to try to dig back and dig them up. But if, maybe some people went to the island because he was a hobnobber and they wanted to get their movie produced or their next album produced, or if you didn't get seen there, you wouldn't be seen on the, maybe that was how they got in there. But After Florida and he was charged,
stop it.
You had to know that this was not a guy that you wanted to hobnob with,
to be associated with in any sense.
Yeah, you have to know that you've got to, don't want to be around him.
Yeah. So Epstein also had a property in New Mexico, which, you know, it has been reported. Now, of course, a lot of this died with him, but it has been reported that he would take people there, and the idea was like a cattle farm.
Oh, yeah. The best part about Epstein was he was breeding the Ubermensch, the super race. Down in New Mexico, this farm, he'd have these ladies in pens, I guess, and he was going to breed with all of them because he was the perfect specimen, and he was going to make more of hymns with all these ladies. But I want to show on screen real quick the temple at his island. I mean, just to go back to his island, when I look at this, I think of Eyes Wide Shut, like they're in there with masks on and, saying the nighttime is the right time and whatever else they do, what would they do in there? What was the purpose of it? Maybe it's, just a place where he goes and meditates and find his center, but dude's creepy. So I'm taking it to thinking he's doing creepy stuff in there.
Yeah. And where Ghislaine comes into all of this is I think Jeffrey understood that, or maybe he was just lazy. Maybe he didn't understand. It's hard to say, but she was the front man. She was well-spoken. She was well-educated, and she would groom these young girls and actually try to get them to groom their friends.
Yeah,
to set dates for Jeffrey and other people.
Yeah, she would hire him on. Well, and let's remember, Jeffrey Epstein was hired by Bill Baller's father at some private school in New York to be a math teacher. He became close to him, and from there he rocketed into working for one of the big investment houses that got in trouble shortly after Jeffrey Epstein left, which may have been when he got tied into the FBI, because it was the FBI that came down on that financial house. And maybe that's where this news that him being an FBI informant comes out of. But I still choose to think, because I enjoy a good conspiracy, that he was a mover and a shaker in the intelligence agencies up until he went to jail.
Yeah.
And then he was just what would you call it?
Liability.
A sheet stretcher.
Yeah.
For the intelligence agencies after that. Is that a good word? Sheet stretcher, not tester.
Quality control.
And then the stuff that comes out of the guards, like the
cameras were off.
Well, right now they're shutting down the prison he was in.
Yes.
Before that, the cameras are faulty, just where he was.
Mm-hmm. And just for that period of time.
Yeah, and then the guards, one of them shopping for motorcycles, like all of a sudden they got some money to buy a bike. Mm-hmm. And then the other one was shopping for furniture online. Mm-hmm. So they ignored their rounds to shop because all of a sudden they had, they had an urge. They had to shop, Now, granted, all of us has probably done a little bit of Amazoning at work, but.
Yeah. Pretty high profile case to be Amazoning at work.
You'd think that they would have, you would think they would do exactly what they did.
Yeah.
You would think they would leave him alone, put him somewhere where he was unprotected, maybe throw some extra heavy linen in the room that roll up nicely.
Yeah. And
you want to have a right texture. When you're tying a noose into a sheet, it's important that you have the proper thread count. Now, you don't want to go above like 1,200, right?
hard to get it to stay.
You know,
it's a little thicker.
You've got that window, 1,000 all the way down to probably 500. If the guy did good work for you, you want to go with 1,000. Nice, smooth. It doesn't itch and rash as they kick and gurgle. But if that guy was whatever, you didn't care for him and he didn't do good work for you, you go for the 500. And you want to make this an experience to end it.
And if I were to put myself in the guard's shoes, kind of, devil's advocate, whether it's the FBI, whether it's whoever shows up and offers me an amount of money that I know would change the course of my life, and I'm staring into the cell of this disgusting human that I also know will likely drain the public money for many, many years to come, get a light sentence, and be on his island somewhere, it would be a very difficult choice.
To not use a dirty sock.
To not shop for a motorcycle.
Yeah.
While this takes place.
And that's the thing. I mean, God.
I'm just saying. These are people too. They have real life problems. I'd imagine that the guards are not paid very well. It's likely a high stress job. This could, whatever they were offered, I'm not saying they were, but if that were the case, it would change the trajectory of their life. And especially if they were given this promise of protection, which I'm telling you, they've been protected.
They have, I believe, they both got some days on the beach, and then their jail's closing down, and then they, go be a prison guard somewhere else and get a clean slate, or maybe they have. We don't know their full story. That's the bad thing. Making a deal with intelligence agencies commonly leave you a liability. But I've got another news story.
All right, let's hear it.
So New York City, there's a house that's built out of shipping containers, and I dig this stuff. I dig this
repurposing.
Yeah, they took these shipping containers, and
I think that thing is hideous.
I dig it. I like what they did there. I mean, look at the inside.
The inside is very modern, and it's an effective use of space. But I mean that thing is, shave its ass, hideous.
But okay, we're talking New York City. It looks like it is 3 stories living, 1 basement for probably parking.
That is unheard of in New York City.
It's made out of 21 shipping containers, and it is selling for $5 million.
Yeah.
That is rustic chic. I do like the fireplace. I think I would like this fireplace more if it was one of those ones where it was a see-through fireplace, where it's in the middle of the house.
You can enjoy it from either side.
From all 4 sides. It's open. It's pretty much a chimney with a hearth above it, But man, that thing is cool.
I don't even know if you can burn fires in New York City. That probably looks like an architectural piece.
It looks like it's a fake gas place. Is what it looks like, looking at it. But the
bedroom looks like a penitentiary.
The bedroom
painted nicely though.
Looks pretty awful because you do not have. I do like these beds though with the under the bed drawers. Yeah, but you do not have
privacy,
significant privacy. I mean, but I still think it's kind of cool. It's kind of striking. I like what they did. They left the door hanging on there, like they welded it shut, but left it on there so you could see what it was.
Yeah, keep the same integrity. It's shipping container stacked. Some shipping container buildings, you don't know. They do a really good job of disguising it. This one,
some of them you really know.
Yes, yeah, some of them.
Some of them like declare, they still say the shipping container company on the side. Some of them,
they've got graffiti still,
the one you hide stuff in, and things like that. But anyway, so
Maxwell, from what we understand, is known for her long-standing friendship with Prince Andrew. Prince Andrew was mentioned. He's the Duke of York. And
it makes you wonder if that was how Epstein and him became
homeboys.
Became
there is a social function in New
pals.
York called Hookers and Pimps. Can't imagine what goes on there. But she introduced Epstein to Prince Andrew, and the three often socialized together. In 2000, Maxwell and Epstein, so it sounds like Maxwell was invited and she took Epstein as her +1, attended a party thrown by Prince Andrew at the Queen's Sandringham House estate in Norfolk, England. Now, this was reportedly put on by Prince Andrew for Maxwell's 39th birthday. So one could argue that Prince Andrew and Maxwell were very friendly. And given that, it's the old adage that birds of a feather flock together. That is not just a saying. That the ability to be intimately friends with someone who conducts herself in such a way brings into question the character that you possess. So, Prince Andrew, as far as I'm concerned, nobody needs to come forward. You're completely on the hook.
Yeah. And, he visited the island, and maybe he didn't go there and, use young girls, but he needs to come and explain that. He needs to come and...
What you knew about it?
Why do you hang... I mean, we're talking after Epstein gets busted for being a pedo, you still hang out with it. If I had a buddy who got busted as being a pedo, he would need to have some serious confirmation that he went and got cured before I'm hanging out with the dude again.
Yeah, and even then, I don't imagine that you would socialize or be seen or throw parties for him.
No, he wouldn't be invited to the house. Definitely not.
Right.
But, let's say you consider the pedo a disease. We're talking he would have to go through, the 20-year rehab and maybe one of those church numbers where they whip him with a belt with razor blades in it, something like that. I mean, there would have to be some serious something done. I've got no tolerance for him.
Yeah.
And honestly, I'm not heartbroken if, they get extreme punishments.
So since at least 1997, back to her trust. And we have to remember that Ghislaine was given a business that failed. It was for corporate gifts given to her by her dad. It failed. And there was no real sustainable income for her that was being reported. But since at least 1997, she maintained a residence in London.
Mm-hmm.
She moved into a 7,000 square foot townhouse on East 65th Street, less than 10 blocks from Epstein's mansion, that was purchased for just under $5 million by an anonymous limited liability company. So there was a lot of shady money coming in to Ghislaine and Epstein, just shady money. And Epstein's mansion was actually kind of given to her, and which again, super shady because it was kind of given to Epstein.
Well, yeah, by the Victoria's Secret dude, wasn't it?
Yeah.
He's tied in with the Victoria's Secret dude. And then he gets gifted this big house in New York that's worth millions of dollars, and then I don't know. Maybe once you reach those levels, maybe
people just...
I mean, once in a while, guys, I've had friends at work, give me a soda.
You're at level -12.
Yeah.
You've got to keep going.
Oh.
So Ghislaine Maxwell was named in 2006. No, Ghislaine Maxwell was named in one of 3 lawsuits filed in New York on the 20th of August, 2019, against the estate of Jeffrey Epstein. The woman filing the suit.
Is that young girl that they started when she was like 15?
Yeah.
That she come from a poor family, a broken home, and they kind of just lured her in.
Well, she's identified as Priscilla Doe. I'm not sure why they went with Priscilla Doe. Maybe it just feels better than Jane Doe.
Okay, hold on. They used Jane first, obviously. And then more came in, so then they went with
Jane.
Alice, Becky, Charlemagne. No, that's a dude's name. But you could use Charlemagne for a girl. Charlotte or Kathy.
Yeah. So
there's a Kathy. But then when you come to the cage, you have to remember you have a Kathy, and then you've got to go something different. You can't even go to Katrina, because then you could confuse the courts. I mean, these poor jury people. I imagine being on the jury of this creepy dudes, and they're like, all right, we're going to hand you now a list of the victims, and they set an encyclopedia down on your lap. Mm-hmm. Your legs fall asleep. You're uncomfortable. Little old ladies are squirming under it. It's just horrible.
So Priscilla Doe claimed that she was recruited in 2006 and trained by Maxwell with step-by-step instructions on how to provide sexual services for Epstein.
Yeah. Apparently, so he liked it started as a massage.
Right. So she wasn't just finding them and then didn't understand or has no liability what happens after that, or, oh yeah, he just told me to find him a girl. That's not where it stopped for her. For her, she would find them. So she would groom them. Mm-hmm. By becoming their friends, helping them pay for school, helping them pay for activities.
She'd go buy them clothes and stuff like that, and then say, hey, how would you like to make some extra bucks? Maybe the first time they walk around with the platter and deliver drinks in the waiting room, the green room to the sex party. Is that how it goes? Is there like a waiting room? You go in there, you sit down, they've got like a craft services trays, fruit and some donuts, you pineapple, obviously, and you sit down and do your stuff, and this girl's, and then work her into it. But from what I read, she did a whole school for these girls on how to be their servants to the master. Right.
So just to get that out of the way, she was an active participant in the sexual assault, and it has been said by victims that she participated in some of those sexual assaults physically.
Well, and that may have been like the graduate school, like, we're going to do your thesis today, so your professor is got to grade it. I don't know, either any way you cut it, this is all wrong. I mean, they go out and target these young girls who
are underprivileged.
Who are underprivileged. They go out and target them so that they can find a mark. I mean, is that how you do it? Is that how? Does that lieutenant mayor, that deputy mayor, is that how he chooses banks? He looks for banks that maybe has some dirty windows,
underprivileged banks,
maybe some chip,
the security guards
brick around,
not very fast. He takes a long lunch or spends a lot of time on his phone.
I mean, of course, I'm just making that up about the mayor. I'm not absolutely sure he robs underprivileged banks. He might be robbing all banks. He might be a wealth of bank robbery. But
so in 2008, Epstein was convicted of soliciting a minor for prostitution and served 13 months of an 18-month jail sentence. That's the one we talked about.
He did not serve 18 months.
He served 12 hours in short spurts.
He had a bed in the jail that they reported. Sometimes he'd go away for weeks.
Yeah.
And go, and he had an office in the downtown area with two sheriffs in their off-duty time making bank OT to let him have his whoever bring in little girls.
So it is reported that Maxwell and Epstein, following his release, were no longer seen together publicly. The records the records have determined that they were still very much working together and spending a lot of time together, but she kind of cut that social perception
so
off.
They quit flying to the island together. They took separate. That's why the submarines.
They quit
He's
going.
Like, I'm not taking. He says, I'm taking the helicopter, and she says, what else do I do? So she calls up Q. Q builds her a submarine that's made out of a Bentley, and she drives into the water, and the wheels go underneath and bubbles and stuff, because we've all seen it. It's there's documentaries about it. And then she drives a submarine there, and then they meet up at the island or in New Mexico.
So, according to court documents from a lawsuit filed by Epstein against Bradley Edwards, who was a representative for several of his accusers, this idiot went and filed this lawsuit against him. In 2010, Maxwell had agreed to provide a deposition in the case, but reportedly left the country one day before Edwards was scheduled to fly to New York to take her deposition, claiming she needed to return to the UK to be with her deathly ill mother.
Yeah, didn't she go on this flight around the world and then ended up somewhere like Wisconsin?
She ended up at Chelsea Clinton's wedding.
Well,
so
how are you going to have a wedding when the lady who lined up for your father to have a good massage
isn't there?
You cannot have a wedding without, I mean, come on. It's important.
So, following her personal, quote unquote, and professional involvement with Epstein, Maxwell was romantically linked for several years to Ted Waite, founder of Gateway Computers. She attended the wedding of Chelsea Clinton as Waite's guest.
Oh, they snuck her in the back door.
Yeah. Maxwell helped Waite obtain and renovate a luxury yacht.
Remember when Trump snuck in all the victims of Bill Clinton during that debate?
Yeah.
That was happy times on TV.
So they renovate this luxury yacht, and the idea is that this is the plan B, that if they needed to escape, they would escape on this luxury yacht. They used it for travel from, France and Croatia before the relationship ended, early 2011. They weren't together very long. She then goes on in 2012 to found the Terra Mar Project, which is a nonprofit organization that advocated the protection of oceans. She does a TED Talk.
Well, hold on. Now, if you run Rape Little Girls Submarine Services, you want the oceans to be
at your disposal.
A good environment for you to haul these poor, probably drugged up victims through. You can't, you can't sacrifice. I mean, that's like, truck drivers want potholes off the roads. I get it.
So Virginia Giuffre, 2015, asserted that Maxwell and Epstein had trafficked her and other underage girls, often at sex parties hosted by Epstein at his homes in New York, New Mexico, Palm Beach, and the Virgin Islands. So this is where the story goes from he is a sex offender to he is a sex trafficker. She is a sex trafficker. She's committing offenses, but in addition, she is trafficking children. So it gets exponentially larger for her at this point.
Do you think that she would fly? Maybe they weren't seen together because she would fly ahead. She would fly ahead and go.
Every good hostess goes and prepares
go and set it up, go shop around the malls looking for the girls who are staring longingly at what do girls like, whatever they like at the store. And she's like, I can help you get that, And maybe that's why they weren't seen together. She had to be there first, and then he would fly up, and then, they would whatever. And then she would kick off, a couple days early to wherever they were going next. The best is the stuff that came out about New Mexico was wild.
It's hilarious. It's not hilarious.
What he said was that he viewed these ladies as livestock, that he would stud or steer, not steer. Steer's a castrated one for food.
It's
right?
gelded, yeah.
Whatever. He would farm term impregnate.
Insert farm term here.
Yeah. He would do in the farming world husbandry and make his words perfect humans, because he was the perfect specimen to make. That was his words. It's insane.
So Maxwell publicly called Virginia Giuffre a liar. And Giuffre, outside of this criminal prosecution, sued Maxwell for defamation in federal court and won. In May of 2017, the case was settled in Giuffre's favor, with Maxwell paying Giuffre millions. 2017, Sarah Ransom comes forward alleging that Maxwell hired her to give massages, quote unquote, to Epstein, and later threatened to physically harm her or destroy her career prospects if she did not comply with their sexual demands at the mansion in New York. And on his private Caribbean island, Little St. James, Pedo Island, and that Epstein also instructed her to have sex with Alan Dershowitz.
Now, Alan Dershowitz is a famous lawyer, constitutional law lawyer. Been a controversial figure on both sides of the party line for just insane stuff. I guess nowhere in the Constitution it says you can't traffic young girls to creepy dudes on a island with a creepy temple that's, looks like it should be an eyes wide shut. So I guess he's sound with his profession. I don't know.
So Maxwell, throughout all of this, had a history of being unreachable during legal proceedings.
Yep.
And the district judge in all of these granted a motion for alternate service on the grounds that the plaintiff's effort to reach Maxwell were persistently thwarted. Like, she had enough money to just disappear.
Well, it's not just that. Like, even when she was supposed to come in and testify, she would pop smoke and go to another country or Wisconsin. Wasn't that where they found her? Like Ohio or Wisconsin or something?
New Hampshire, yeah.
Wherever it is, sitting on a beach.
Massachusetts. Yeah. That's where they found her.
Wherever, one of those lesser states, not New York.
So this plays into why they've refused to give her bail.
Well, yeah.
And her attorney is consistently asking for that to be revisited. She needs bail. He's claiming that she's a shell of the person she was. She's got depression. Her diet's not correct.
Hold on. Just had to let my heart break for a minute. All right, go on.
But all of this plays into this, because this leads us to the 15th of August, 2019, where reports surfaced that Maxwell had been living in Manchester by the Sea. That's a whole name. That's like a town name. Massachusetts. In the
not
home.
Manchester, not by the sea.
Right. Not Manchester by the forest, by the sea.
Yeah.
She was living in the home of Scott Borgerson, the CEO of Cargo Metrics. Think about that. Just let that.
What is Cargo Metrics? Well, it says cargo in it. So
yeah, they manage large cargo shipments worldwide.
Those are probably the dudes who. I wonder, when they took the ladies to Pederast Ranch, was it in a cattle truck? When I went to basic training, they put us in a cattle truck to take us from the in-processing area reception down to the where you had basic training, or a ways apart.
So they catch her, they bring her in. These alternative methods to reach her didn't work out. She was named criminally in cases, and she had disappeared. She'd been on the run for some time. So they catch her and they bring her in, and she is jailed. Now, she was caught because the neighbors, she was living in plain sight. She wasn't even hiding. She was going out to lunch with her attorney, all kinds of things. But the neighbors reported seeing her. It was a large estate, and they just happened to see her there. So Maxwell, in July of 2019, requested a rehearing in a federal appeals court in an effort to keep documents sealed that were part of the suit by Jeffrey. So on August 9th, 2019, the first batch of documents were unsealed and released from the earlier defamation suit by Jeffrey against Maxwell. I'm guessing this was done because she didn't want all of that witness testimony and exhibits to be public. It's likely at this point she's no longer concerned about her reputation, but concerned about, the jury pool that she may face. So it was the very next day, just to give this a good little timeline. So August 9th, 2019, the first batch of documents were unsealed and released. August 10th, 2019, Epstein is found dead.
Shocked. But let's talk about a little news story. Okay. So.
Oh, the capybara.
Capybaras. Now
they're cute, but they're giant.
Okay.
Do not let you can't allow that the cuteness and the way they look like a small rodent to lull you into their giant.
These animals are on average probably 25 to 35 pounds. They're the size of a medium-sized dog. Anyway, so in Argentina, it's in Buenos Aires or whatever. They've got this super. Now these were all over Cuba.
Yeah,
I would get drunk and get spooked out by them all the time. But anyways,
large rodent.
Well, they would sit. They had outdoor theaters there, and you'd sit down, and obviously in the military, you wear flip flops when you're not in combat boots. And
Did you guys call them flip flops?
Yeah. Well, shower shoes, and they would eat the edges of it. So you'd look down and your flip flop would match your foot. And like you wouldn't know that they were chewing on them until you felt a whisker halfway through, Anyways, they're taking over. There's this fancy neighborhood, Nord Delta. It's like this ultra wealthy people build this, ultra wealthy gated community, and they are being overrun with capybaras. We called them banana rats. And they are rodents. They aren't big rats.
Were the banana rats there before the people?
Probably got pushed out, but then, they come back. They are a rodent. I mean, that honestly, rodents are like, for survival, they're the dominant mammal. You got cockroaches and rodents. They will nuclear holocaust hits, wipes out the earth. There'll be rodents and cockroaches, and then they will breed.
That's terrifying.
But yeah, they are taking over this fancy gated community.
Everyone's like
overrunning.
We've got to take care of these.
And this gated community is not small. It's 40,000 homeowners. So this is like a.
So what did they do? What did they do for this? It says that the homeowner started a war. How do you trap? Do you do like a raccoon trap?
Well, okay. It says they're fed up with the pests. They want the government to step in and build deterrents to keep the rodents out. But activists and environmentalists have joined forces with the capybaras. So I want to mention.
It's not what you know, it's who you know.
Betsy, you like emus, right?
I don't like birds of any persuasion.
Australia lost a war in, I think it was 1921 or something. Australia, I can't spell. Australia declared war on emus.
Oh, Australia.
And lost.
Oh.
So the Emu War. Okay.
The Great Emu War.
1932, Australia declared war on the emus, the flightless bird. They were tearing up crops and they were acting a lot like the wild boars are here in the United States.
Emus are mean.
And the Great Depression's going on, everything else. And they lost.
It's a first attempt.
It was a multi-stage war.
lines of defense.
They finally surrendered to the emus.
Yeah.
Did you hear there's an emu loose here in Tooele today?
There is?
Yeah. It bit a kid earlier.
Are you making that up because that's my own personal
I'm not making
trauma?
it up. I'm not making it up at all.
I was bit by an emu at the zoo.
When you were like,
I was really young.
4.
It hissed. Emus hiss.
And they make a thumping sound in their chest.
Yes. And then it bit my cheek.
Uh-huh.
It was terrible.
And
birds of all persuasions are out.
You got peed on by a lion.
Yeah.
And then the year after that, our sister got
helicoptered by a hippo.
Helicopter pooed by a hippo. It was my dad had the best zoo experience for my sister's childhood. But anyways, yeah, so the emus won a war with Australia. Yes. Anyways, that was a side note on declaring war on the capybaras. And I don't know if you could win that war unless you'd have to go radical. I mean, we're talking burning down the forest around it, which would ruin where you live. I say what you do is figure out how to set up places where the capybaras want to go, where they have a space of their own to grow, something like that. And
Capybara Island.
Yeah, or capybara, is I would put it in the middle so they're drawn to it and they don't, and then you defend the individual houses. I do not want to see them do horrendous activity against these animals. Remember, just because I want to put it this way. If this was poor people committing this, these rich people would be out marching against them.
Yes.
So, but because they're all rich.
Hashtag save the capybara.
Yeah.
So, but because they're rich, they are waging war and they're only being thwarted, and it will be short-lived on that because money talks. Mm-hmm. By environmentalists.
Mm-hmm.
So,
all right, let's round this out and finish it up. We do have some comments to get to. You guys thrown in there, so
Maxwell appeared before court by way of video link, July 14th, 2020. She pled not guilty to the charges. She's a naturalized U.S. citizen since 2002 who also holds passports from France and the U.K.
I think she also holds citizenship from France and the U.K. also.
Yes. So
she was born in France. Her father was Brit, and she became a U.S. citizen.
Right. So because of the fact that France does not extradite its citizens and the amount of money that
what's his name? Polanski.
Yeah.
I raped a little girl. Now I'm going to go to France, and the rest of Hollywood can call me a hero, and then wonder why what was Harvey Weinstein pops up. Oh, okay.
So because of all of these circumstances, she has been denied bail, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
Given that she doesn't show up unless she's found and cuffed and taken to jail and then made to show up. It's complete insanity to think that they would ever grant her bail. And where we are sitting right now is she is really, really working hard to keep sealed the documents up until, I understand, very recently, where jail's wearing her out.
It's funny. She was working to keep him sealed, but the prosecution wanted to keep him sealed also, because the prosecution is an agent of the state, and there's some names on there that make you go, And so now she wants to unseal him, and the state says, no, you were right the first time. We need to keep this quiet. Well, why do you need to keep him quiet? Because I can just see the lawyer look at the assistant lawyer, and the assistant lawyer's like,
I got nothing.
Whispers to him, tell him we're going to go after them differently. And he's
right.
Like, yeah, we want to go after them differently. That's why. And so.
And she obviously wants them unsealed. Not that she wants them unsealed, but she wants to cooperate in a higher level than she has because she says she's really suffering in jail.
She wants a deal and she wants to be done with it.
Yep.
So she thinks if I can get this off, get it all out there, I imagine soon we'll see maybe not a guilty plea, but a plea to a bargain. But seriously,
makes you wonder.
What needs to happen is all this needs to be exposed. We need to be exposed. If we have a government that is doing creepy stuff, it needs to be exposed. I like to hearken back to the Church Pike Committee hearings. I mean, those were awesome and nothing was done about it. A huge failure, but we need to look at that. We need to expose that. We need to look at these bureaucracies that are set up and allowed to run rampant. We need to do away with them on the federal level, move them to the state is my honest opinion. I think there's nothing in the Constitution for the DEA and the FBI and all that needs to be handled on a state level.
Yeah. And I'm not a huge advocate for the government or any kind of oversight managing money transactions. I think that opens us up to a lot.
Well, you're not good with people spending other people's money.
Right. But I think that in cases like hers, they need to understand where this money started.
They do. And I think what they should do is let each state that she committed these crimes in go after her individually on the state level, and the state investigates what ties in there, and then they come together and investigate it as a group. You could have Florida, New Mexico, New York. I don't know if the Virgin Islands have a thing.
They're definitely pursuing whatever their thing is as well.
But that's how it should be done. I think when it's done federally, there's too many clouds in front of it. I like to see that the old sunlight is the best disinfectant.
Absolutely.
All right, everyone, thanks for joining us, but we're going to go through some comments real quick. Hi, James. Good to see you. We understand we lost comments because we died earlier, and yes, it
happens.
I think we lost 2 comments. Holly, we love you too.
Ugly home, yes. Hideous home.
I like it. Now, Wendy says that was uncalled for. Maybe it was my comments on how I feel that pederasts should be treated, and maybe it is uncalled for. You might be right. I am not who you want to use as a example of humanitarianism and kindness in some cases. So I agree. Were I you, I wouldn't let me anywhere near making decisions for anything like that.
Third time's a charm.
Third time's a charm, yes.
Gone again. I'm sorry.
Yeah, gone again and back. Yeah, I don't know what happened. Sometimes our producer, it might be my computer. I run on I don't know, it's a crappy computer I found in a dumpster. Blew it off and powered it up, went for it. Hello, Christy. Wendy, I remember that. What were we talking about when she said I remember that? Was it the New Mexico creepy stuff? There was a lot of stuff in here.
Hey, Norma.
Hey, Norma. Yeah, I'm glad you made it live, Wendy. And everyone let us know. Is this a good time?
It's a terrible time.
Yeah. Wendy says, no, he said ugly home. I know everyone says that, but me, I like it. I like ugly homes. Oh, not you. Oh, the pederasts. Yeah, I agree. You know, I think, okay, so what weight of sledgehammer would you swing at their gut if you could? I mean, we have to obviously put a limit on it because we don't want you to get injured blowing a shoulder out doing it. But, you know, a 5-pounder on a full meter handle, I mean, that would be a good size, you know?
Yeah. And that shipping container home is hideous. Just, that's my final words.
Okay. Okay. Wendy says, Dot,
ugly home. It is.
Yeah, that is uncalled for to call it an ugly home. That is a majestic piece of art. Okay, Wendy says, remember the Chelsea funeral. What's the Chelsea funeral? Did Chelsea have a funeral? Who's Chelsea?
I have to think of who it was, but yeah. She attended that as well. It wasn't Chelsea Clinton. She did but yes.
Okay, but some other Chelsea.
Unless she's saying Chelsea Clinton's marriage was a funeral, which, I guess perspective.
I'm telling you what, you got to be careful married into that family.
Oh,
Bill comes in and
don't you bring,
invite you over for dinner and starts playing the sax. It's about to go down. It's about to happen.
And then, mess around, find out where Hillary's concerned. We've got to do a show on the Hillary list.
Oh,
we've got to just break it down.
We're going to do that from an undisclosed location.
Thanks for joining today, guys.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. But yeah, we're looking at possibly changing the time and or day we do it. But if you guys have input, please let us know. We're all about, we want to make it. Of course, we want to have you guys watch it live and get involved live. We like this interaction. And if there's a better time, we want to do it. And everything else, our schedules will be opening up here in a couple months. Yeah. And I just remember when she went to the funeral, you all spoke earlier. Yeah. Yeah. It's creepy. If you get the chance to read through the court documents, don't. Life is short. Life is short. I'll never get that 42 minutes of my life back. You read through it in 42 minutes?
It's like 200 pages.
The one I downloaded was 2,487 pages.
Yeah, this is just the latest.
And I'm screening through just saying, I just want to find a name.
Just any name. Give me a name.
It was rough. All right, you guys, have a good weekend. Now we want to throw out tomorrow is 20 years since 9/11. If you get the chance, not just get the chance, but take a few minutes and think about what was lost on that day. Over 3,000 lives. A lot of intrigue has come out of it. A lot of our liberties have been stripped because of it. Think about that, and it's that changed the world. Yep. That is a day that I don't think for a long time will be forgotten. I know I'm going to take a few minutes and think about it. I want to get my thoughts together on that. But, yeah. All right. Have a good weekend, everyone. I hope the weekend's knockout, bang out for everyone. It's the end of summer. I hope it's great.
I can smell the pumpkin spice in the air.
Yeah. Basic white girls are gearing up right now. They're putting on their vests and their knee-high boots, and I'm going to get a pumpkin spice bacon and pumpkin spice. You know what? If I was in the market for a wife, I would get me some pumpkin spice cologne and just parade myself in front of coffee shops right now. Done.
It'd draw them in.
I'd probably be mauled. But have a good weekend. We'll talk to you guys next week.